Tamer started up again today, and on to day 2 of our decklist countdown for the release of Special Booster version 2. And well, with today's decklist being a mashup between Lilith and Leviamon, given that these two cards, lines end up having some form of synergy in their playstyles, as both revive a body for yourself or a body for your opponent in some way to capitalize on it. Well, let's continue on to the deck list. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to help with the algorithm. Well, starting us off with the eggs, ends up being a full playset of BT6 Sunomon, with its ever so helpful inheritable to simply draw one in response to you trashing card for one of your effects. Then going from there, continuing on to our rookie lineup. For the most part, I end up running a sort of baseline rookie lineup for Demon Lords. First off being BT14 Goblimon, for the gain 1 memory inheritable whenever you discard a card. Trash a card for effect. And then EX7 Syakomon for the draw potential, as well as being able to gain 1 memory whenever you have an effect plays out opposing Digimon. And to round off the lineup, I end up going for the EX6 Tsukaimon as another body to revive, as well as having a neat inheritable that actually stalls the opponent. Then, continuing on. For the tech options for this part, I end up thinking about, end up running a bit based off of builds from Lilith, and also primarily stuff from my prior Leviamon build. As obviously, given the direction of how I've made this deck, it actually works in going either direction as the primary. And bringing to attention, EX7 Tsukaimon is a tech choice in the fact that it ends up being a a searcher for specifically Lilithmon stuff, as well as setting up trash by having 1 purple card sitting in trash. From there, Guillemon ends up being another good tech pick, in the sense that it ends up becoming a good rush finisher, given that you mainly run in these kinds of decks as a very late game rush finisher, as it's on play when used as a body to be revived, gains a rush whenever the total trash is 20 more cards between you and the opponent. And then, just to be a good generic pick, being the, Gabu structure deck, Gabu and EX5 Gabu X package for possible draw and memory efficiency, starting off with Gabu X's here, especially being an X antibody searcher. And going on to the level 4s. For the main deck itself, I end up going a bit iffy on this one, as it simply is a BT16 Dober and EX5 Dober X package. As well, with BT16 Dober allowing you to trash a card, being able to immediately give one of your Digimon blocker, as well as granting an inheritable that allows you to draw one when an effect plays out one of your own Digimon. While Dober X here is also to further build a better stack that builds memory efficiency and for pentatone draw, given that it's an X antibody form over Dober. As it has the on play, that gets to be triggered as part of its 1 Digivolve if X antibody or Dobermon is in source. As its 1 Digivolving is simply a draw 1, trash 1 effect. And then the on play that can also be triggered through 1 Digivolving as part of the X antibody ability is giving retail to one of your Digimon until the opponent's turn. Then, going into that tech pick, one thing that obviously comes to mind, given that I also brought it up prior, would be the addition of either option of Black Auto and Witchmon for Lilith side, or the more generic Structure Deck Garou and EX5 Garou X package for generic support. With EX6 one having you to trash a card from hand to then grant one of the opponents to give the opponent the effect end of attack, delete this Digimon, as well as another inheritable that allows you to stall. While Black Auto here ends up having the 1 Digivolve and on delete, trash the card from hand, and grant one of your Digimon blocker in retail as a given bundle already. While also having that same stall effect. And then, since it ends up being the generic package that works well, Structure Deck Garou pretty much mostly being here for another draw 1 trash 1 ability, as well as being able to draw 1 trash 1 on attack, while Garou X ends up being for extra draw power, as its on evolve allows you to draw 2 and trash 2 from hand, while also gaining 1 memory if X antibody or Garurumon is in source. Granted, you don't really get to maximize the Garou X inheritable, given that your top end isn't a Garurumon or Omnimon name to work off of. Then, going from there, on to the level 5 lineup. And then for me, I sort of went towards the Lilithmon side with this, as I ended up going with a full playset of BT3 Lady Devi, and then full playset of EX7 Lady Devi X. With BT3 Lady Devi being the on evolve draw 2 trash 2, as well as an inheritable that pops a level 3 Digimon whenever you use an option. And then Lady Devi X being a very powerful support in the fact that, well, on Digivolving on play 1 Digivolving, it hits the opponent Digimon, one opposing Digimon with end of attack, delete this Digimon, and then if it has Lady Devi or X antibody in source, you end up spawning a Vole and Zerdurkin token that ends up being a level 4 5000 DP blocker retail body. And it also plays well in the fact that it has the effect, inheritable, and during the opponent's turn, once return, whenever your opponent's Digimon gets lead, it allows you to revive a level 4 lower body from trash with playing cost. And then, since I want to play into that playstyle, I also included 2 copies of Dragomon into the deck list. Given that Dragomon's on play 1 Digivolving, allows you to force the opponent into playing out a level 4 lower Digimon, and allows you to spawn back 1 as its all turns effect. And that ends up playing well, given that, of course, this is also Leviamon we are talking about, so it allows you to play into Leviamon's playstyle as triggering in response to whenever your opponent plays anything by effect. Then moving on to the tech choices for this one. For me, I end up still have these in the back pocket, with Boss Digimon being more towards the Lilithmon side, being a scapegoat body that on Digivolve allows you to revive a level 3 Digimon without paying cost, and also has the same hearable as Lady VX. While Warriors Digimon and Cerberus X are more so on the offensive side with Levia. With Warriors Digimon's also powerful when attacking, an alternative effect, pretty much granting a blanket all Digimon have the all opposing Digimon gain the on delete, lose 1 memory. On top of its one powerful when attacking, to force out a level 4 or lower Digimon from the opposing trash to then switch into, which also plays into Levia X. While Cerberus X here is more so the generic pick, in my opinion. With Cerberus X having the on-play that can also be triggered when it's on-evolving, though given that Cerberusmon isn't in this set, isn't in this lineup, you more so want to see X antibody underneath. As when Digivolving is another draw 1 trash 1, that allows you to then also trigger the on-play of also reviving a level 3 Digimon from trash without paying cost. And then onto the main lineup. For the main top end of the deck, it ends up being a very up-in-the-air split, in my opinion. As for the main level 6 bodies you play, it ends up being 2 copies of EX6 Lilithmon, 3 copies of EX5 Leviamon, and then 1 copy of EX5 Anubismon to play into, well, the aspects of this deck. With the EX6 Lilith being your average, very powerful, unique take of pretty much giving a opponent's Digimon a die for me effect, really. As it grants, it ends up giving one opposing Digimon, end of turn, delete this Digimon. And has the alterns of when this Digimon will leave, she gets to also take down, pretty much is able to take down a level 5 or lower Digimon to take her place and prevent it from leaving the battle area, other than leaving the battle area by effect. And during the opponent's turn, when another Digimon gets deleted, you're able to trash the top, burn off 1 security. While the EX5 Levia is pretty much self-explanatory, being a very powerful form of removal that pairs well with the Bind Crush option that is no doubt in this deck, as well as being the bruiser of the two, weighing a Sec +1 body, and also giving in all turns of gaining 1 memory whenever any opponent's Digimon gets deleted. And this ends up working all well in tandem with Anubismon, who has the one Digivolving in main effect to trash cards from hand, to then play out a Digimon, any purple Digimon, with a reduced play cost of 3 for each card you trash for the effect. Reduced cost of 3 in addition to each card you chose to trash for the effect. And then you also get the Your Turns effect to then delete 1 opposing Digimon or draw 1 if you couldn't delete anything. And then to round out the high end, I end up going with a 2-2 split between Lilith and Levia, given how the deck functions. With Lilith being the more better stall option, by comparison, being able to protect herself when it would leave the battle area and needing to have Lilithmon as part of source or X antibody to then delete any other Digimon to prevent herself from leaving. And that also, in given wording, that also includes hitting your opposing Digimon with this effect. And then how the all turns, depending on whose turn it is. If it's your turn, you're able to revive a level 4 lower, but on the opponent's turn, it also burns away the top security. While Levia X here is pretty self-explanatory in how it's always been used, being a comeback tool as it gets to digivolve from trash over Leviamon or X antibody, or Digimon with X antibody, in response to playing in Digimon Tamer through effect. And is a much more bigger Sec plus 2 body that also on Digivolve, if you're have the smaller board, allows you to blow up your opponent's bigger board by blowing up one of their Tamers, and then one of their level 3, 5, and 7 Digimon to pretty much nuke the opponent's board state. And then from there, on to pretty much options, really. As for me, setup-wise, given that this is a stack build, definitely a stack build deck in nature, I end up running a 4-2 split of Wisdom Training and Purple Mem Boost. With Wisdom Training being there to help mitigate evolution costs while also being search, and then Purple Mem Boost being a much deeper search that specifically looks for Digimon, and ends up being memory gain for later. Then from there, ends up being 3 copies of Biting Crush, and then 1 copy of Seventh Fascination. Biting Crush for its own application as being a very powerful singular popping tool that also becomes a trap that triggers in response to your opponent bringing out a Digimon through effect, allowing you to then revive a Leviamon that's, specifically Leviamon in this case, EX5 Leviamon, back out from trash to then further, take a bite out of the opponent's board. While Seventh Fascination is in here over the other copy, the other 7th for Leviamon is the fact that, in my retrospect, you would end up hitting a lot more things, as it pretty much puts a very heavy decision on your opponent. As for its main effect, it pretty much hits every opponent Digimon with until the end of turn, delete one of your Digimon, which can actually work pretty well when you have a Leviamon active on board. And then also for its security effect, it allows you to delete one of your opponent's unsuspended Digimon. And then rounding out our options for utility, I ended up going with the good old regular X antibody from BT9 as more so a passive and more flexible option, given how I built this deck's lineup. Obviously, you're also free to throw in Protoform for the cost reduction into your X antibody forms, while still being able to trigger the X antibody conditions of their effects. And then to round it off, I end up going with Calling from Darkness for its usual strong utility of being able to, well, just recycle 2 purple Digimon from trash to help fix your stack building. And that's it for the deck itself. Now on to the combos. And then on to the combos. For the most part, the starting hand should end up being pretty much prioritizing seeing any combination of the 2 rookies in hand and your search options, while seeing the Dobermans and exiting by Pro form somewhat third, though prioritizing X Antibody to have in hand for their uses to build a proper stack. As for the pretty much ends up being sort of a mix between a deck that prioritizes making a stack, in this case, pretty much making a tool box of inheritables Lilith that can make use of either inheritable, with the Sukaimon being the more lucrative one for the stack, or Nubismon to be able to revive resources from trash. Though additionally, given the nature of the deck, if you also see Biting Crush in hand or through security, and definitely would recommend chucking away either Levias to be used for later as discard fodder or as a discard fodder effects. As you pretty much still also have Calling from Darkness as an option to recur any of your stack pieces that you may want. Since in addition to the stack building part, Dragomon is also another avenue to go into Levia X, as pretty much setting it up with X Antibody before digivolving into it will pretty much be the surefire way to trigger a full stack Levia X, and alternatively to a Levia coming out through Biting Crush or being digivolved into, and then have Levia X come out from hand or trash. Though this is also one of my more experimental decks, I do see it as one possible skeleton for any other upcoming 7 Great Demon Lord decks that are brown with single Demon Lord, depending on the nature of that entry. And though this ends up being an experimental one, it still works as a work in progress. That works pretty well to base any other 7 Great Demon Lord, singular 7 Great Demon Lord base deck around, as you have so much utility for either efficient memory gain based off of respective effects based on a line, or pretty much just pure generic purple good stuff, really. Since Anubis and Calling from Darkness were limited for very good reasons for purple. But overall, this has been my deck list on my Levia and Lilith hybrid deck. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and this is Sarja signing off.